Buying a new kart can be a very tricky and intimidating process. I mean, racing is the most complicated sport in the world. So what do you need to look for when it comes to looking for an old used chassis? Now in this case, you probably want to go a bit newer than this. This is an '89 Vendetta, my first kart. You've seen it in a couple of videos so far, but it'll work as a stand-in for anything you're looking for that's a little bit newer. But let's get into it. Probably the first thing you want to do before you even get there is ask, what's the chassis manufacturer, what's the year of manufacturer, where was it run, and in what class? If they can't tell you where it was run or what class it was run in, it's probably stolen. But otherwise, they're going to be able to tell you where it was run, how long it was run for, was it run in club, regional, national racing, because that kind of wear is going to change. If it was a club series, it's going to probably have a lot more races on it, a lot more time. Did they practice on it a lot? Just because it was used a lot doesn't mean it's in bad shape, it just gives you an idea of what to look for. So you show up to look at this kart, maybe you're in a showroom, maybe it's in somebody's garage, their front yard. What's the first thing you should be looking for? On modern karts, the first and most obvious thing that you can look at is the bodywork. Now this didn't go with this kart. This one actually ran with no bodywork, but you get the idea. The first thing you want to look for is under all the bodywork. Is it worn out? Does it have holes in it? A lot of rule books don't let you have holes in the bodywork. You want to look at the front panel, the Nassau panel for some people. Is it in good shape? Particularly down here where it attaches at the front is the most vulnerable place for it to break. But you also look at the attachment points up in the top. Also, what is it made out of? If it's a custom piece like this is fiberglass. It's not legal in some places. Most people are going to have plastic, and plastic is what you're looking for. Looking at the side pods, again, you want to be looking along the bottom. Does it have holes in it? Is it in good shape? Does it look like something that you're going to be able to run, or are you going to have to change it? You know, when you're looking over the kart overall, does all the hardware look correct? Are all the nuts and bolts, you know, matching to the chassis? If not, why not? Next thing you want to look at is the chassis itself. What kind of shape is it in? Does it have damage? Is it, you know, pounded in somewhere? Does it have kinks? You want to look for specifically chassis damage along the front here where the spindles attach. You know, C-channels, there's a couple different names for them. You know, this one we've got a big bash here because the front tire got smashed in at some point. Not ideal. Look over, look for cracks, look for repairs. You know, back here where a lot of chassis, the seat struts are integral into the chassis. Very often they'll have cracks here. And what you want to do is, were they repaired? Do they look like they were repaired well? Believe it or not, a crack like this is not a big deal. It makes sure that the side pod and sidebars are in good shape. You want to look for cracks in the bearing carriers, anywhere along the chassis. You want to look at the axle, give it a spin. Does it actually spin freely? Does it look like it's bent? Does it have any marks on it? You want to look at the disc. Is the disc, you know, in good shape? Does it have any cracks or breaks or chips missing out of it? Look at the pad material. Does it actually have any pad material in it? Check for leaks on the brakes, the brake lines. Something as simple as, do the brakes work? Holy. Wow, the brakes work. This thing hasn't been on the track since 1997 and the brakes work. Send it. Come up to the steering. Does the spindle look bent? When you're looking at the spindles, does it have all the proper spacers? Do they match? The same with the spindle here. Does it have all the little plastic hardware that it's supposed to? In this case, this old chassis just got washers, but they were actually the washers that came with the kart. Does it look like it's being pinched? You look at this, as a great example, you look at this spindle carrier, the bottom has been bent up. There should be more washers in here than there are, and it's pinched that down. Does the tie rod and the steering column look bent? I mean, the tie rods are pretty easy. You can look at them, you can give them a little twist and see how they look. The steering column, does it turn? Does it turn freely? Can you see a bend in the steering column as you move it? Certain nuts and bolts in the karts either have to have a clip, a cotter pin, or a lock nut. You're gonna wanna make sure that those things have it. When it comes to steering, pedals, brakes, if it doesn't have a clip, it doesn't have a cotter pin, make sure that it's got a lock nut on it. You gotta look at the floor pan and what floor pans it comes with. If somebody has made their own floor pan, you gotta be careful. It has to fit within the chassis rails, but it can't go below or above. In fact, this particular floor pan is illegal. But you also want to look for damage. This one's got a bunch of holes in it from mounting different transponders over the years, but it's also got some cracks. This one's been repaired. It's got some cracks in places, which means that it's not functioning the way it should. And it also runs the risk of it, coming apart. Something to look for is, does it come with torsion bars? Usually back here, and there might be one in the back. It usually has more than one different torsion bar. Does it come with it? Is all the hardware there for it? If you're gonna try and run the seat that it comes in, first of all, make sure that it fits, but also make sure it's in good shape. Know that if it's got damage, you're probably gonna have to fix it, if not run it. Does it have any cracks or repairs that have been done? Has it been, has it got a bunch of extra holes that have been welded out? Has the seat bottom been repaired and cracked? Look at it from underneath, is it in good shape? Cracks in the top of the seats are very common. That kind of damage isn't necessarily a safety issue, but it is going to change the way that the chassis works. If that seat's flopping around and moving around, you're flopping around, moving around in the seat. You want to be nice and tight, and you want any of the weight transfer to be controlled. Cracks and stuff like that are not controlled. Fuel system, if you have an engine attached to it, making sure that the fuel system, do the lines feel tight? Are they, brittle and hard? Is the gas tank in good shape? Coming around to the engine, if it comes with an engine, is the engine complete? Can they run it for you? Is really ideal. If you're talking about a spec class, Briggs & Stratton, does it have the proper seal on it? If it doesn't have the proper seal, you're not going to be able to run that engine. You want to look for cracks in any of the usual places, any repairs. You also want to look at the overall chassis. Does it have gouges? Is it worn out? A lot of chassis are going to have strikes up in the front, and they're probably going to have strikes down here, closer to the seat. It's just where the chassis tends to flex the most and hit the ground. And you want to look for any weld repairs, anything that's been added, look for cracks, look for any damage. And again, you want to look at the bottom of the seat, make sure that it's not ground down and worn out or, ready to break through. Look at where the seat rail is. You can see how many times that's hit the ground. Make sure it's in good shape. There's still lots of metal there. You want to look at the floor pan again. Remember that it needs to be within the confines of the chassis. It can't go past the bars, but it also can't go below or above. One thing that a lot of people are really concerned about is whether or not the chassis is straight. What does that even mean? Is it a big deal if it's not straight? And it very much depends on how it's not straight. Now, if it's your first year, you shouldn't be worried too much about a chassis that it's a little out of square. It's not going to be the end of the world. The biggest thing in your first year is getting used to the chassis, working with what you have. A lot of people say that if the chassis is up in the air, that you can look underneath and see if the rails are straight or not. Now, this chassis is extremely not straight, but even on camera, it's extremely hard to tell. Now, if you look at that spindle position, it gives you an idea of just how out of straight this thing is, even though we got it working great with it being bent. Because the truth about go-karts is, especially modern ones, they're extremely soft and bendable. Once you've put it on the racetrack, it's not going to be perfect anymore. They bend, they twist, they move. What you don't want is an excessive twist. You don't want to bind in the chassis. Part of the things that you can do to help fix that kind of thing is actually loosen all the front bolts. In most cases, it's the front bolts cross here and tighten it back up. Same with the floor pan. Loosen the floor pan, tighten it up. The seat, rear axle, and you pull binds out of the chassis that way, and usually it'll flatten itself out. You do that stuff on a flat piece of ground and it'll make a difference. If you've got a cross problem, that's where you start having problems. If this spindle is closer to the rear axle than that one, you've got a problem. Now, when you go to see a used chassis, you might not be able to have it on a piece of level ground, but generally speaking, if you have the opportunity to put it down on the ground, here are a couple of measurements you can do. Level piece of ground to the spindle here and the top of the spindle there. Are they the same? You want to go from the spindle bolt to the axle carrier. Is this the same here as it is over there? Again, being a sprint kart, you're gonna want a symmetrical chassis. Then, if you have the opportunity with the chassis maybe leaned up against the wall, from a front spindle, crossover, front spindle, crossover. Another measurement that you can do, depending on how the axle was put together, is you can measure From the front bolt to the front bolt, front bolt to the front bolt, and then from the bottom where it's attached to the chassis, front and back. If it's been hit in the back, or it's got some kind of twist where the back end is in, that measurement's gonna be different. You can check that. Then we talk about extras. What kind of extras are you getting? Do you have an extra set of tires and rims? Are they in good shape? Are they the kind of tires that the series you're running actually gonna use? Does it come with chains? It's always nice. Most people are running 219 now, but depending on your class, a 35 chain is not a big deal. Just make sure that it comes with gears and a clutch to match it. If it comes with an engine, it's coming with a clutch. If it doesn't come with a clutch, you're gonna have to buy it. But you're gonna want that to match whatever gears and chain you have. The kind of gears and stuff that you're gonna use, again, you're gonna have to contact the club and just ask. Tell them what class you're running, what kind of gears you should be buying. Somebody's gonna know. Especially if you show up at the track, for your first day, you're gonna be able to ask questions, get it on the racetrack, get some laps. Even if you're not sure, you can still put it on the racetrack your first time, and you'll learn pretty quickly if it's too tall of a gear. If you're hitting the rev limiter early, it's probably not gonna be a problem if it's your first go-kart and your first time getting laps. Something that's really nice are different axles. Softer axles, there's mediums, there's hards, there's all kinds of different versions of axles. Axle width, depending on your class. There's the basic rundown of the kind of things you're looking for when you're buying a chassis. Make sure that it's in good shape, the bodywork doesn't have any holes in it, or be prepared to replace it. Make sure it doesn't have any cracks. Any cracks that it did have, like on the seat bars, make sure they've been repaired well. Make sure that you don't have anything bent, twisted, damaged, dents. Make sure the brakes and the pedals work. Make sure that the steering works and nothing's bent. Make sure that the bodywork's in good shape. If you're gonna run the seat that's in it, make sure it actually fits and make sure it's in good shape. Make sure that any extras that it comes with are in good shape themselves and it's something that you're gonna be able to run. And most importantly, make sure that what you're getting is what you want. If it's your first year in karting, getting a reasonably good chassis is all you need. You do not need perfection. You don't want perfection in your first year. If this is your second or third year and you're looking for an upgrade, you're gonna want something as close to new as possible, in the best shape possible, but you're gonna have to be willing to spend that extra bit of money. But no matter what you choose, you're gonna have a great time on that racetrack. So let me know, is there anything you think that I missed? Is there extra checks that you like to do? Let me know down in the comments below. Remember to like, subscribe, share, do all those great things. And with your new chassis, I will see you at the racetrack.